The alarm screamed through the long metal halls of Station Vera 9. Red lights flashed across the ceiling, painting the corridor like a river of blood. Soldiers shouted orders, but their words were lost inside the chaos. Doors slammed shut one after another, locking sections of the station. Smoke hissed from broken pipes, filling the air with a sharp, bitter taste. A human guard named Marcus Hale ran down the corridor, his boots heavy on the steel floor. His chest burned from running, but he kept going. He was not running for himself. He was running for the alien diplomat, the most important guest on the station. Behind Marcus, shadows moved fast. Enemy assassins. Their weapons crackled with green energy cutting through metal like paper. Sparks flew echoing across the walls. Marcus knew they were closing in. Ahead of him, the alien diplomat envoy Thalrin stumbled. Tall, thin, and covered in silver-blue skin, Thalrin was unused to violence. His long robes dragged against the floor, slowing him down. He looked back once, his golden eyes wide with fear. "Keep moving," Marcus shouted, his voice rough, commanding. "Don't stop, envoy." Thalrin hesitated. "Why are they attacking me? The treaty—" "No time," Marcus cut him off. "Just move." The corridor shook as another blast exploded behind them. A door melted, spilling fire across the ground. The assassin's boots slammed closer. Marcus's heart pounded harder. He could feel death chasing them both. They turned into another hallway. It was darker, filled with smoke. Alarms screamed even louder here. Pipes burst above, raining hot steam. The diplomat coughed, struggling to see. Marcus grabbed Thalrin's arm and pulled him forward. His grip was strong, unshakable. The guard's uniform was torn, his helmet cracked, but his eyes, sharp and human, still burned with duty. Then it happened. The assassins appeared at the far end of the corridor. 5 of them. Their armor was black, their weapons glowing bright. They raised their rifles in unison. Marcus pushed Thalrin hard. "Run!" The alien stumbled forward, confused. "What about you? Run!" Marcus roared. The rifles fired. Green energy filled the hall. The air sizzled. Time slowed. Marcus turned, planting himself between the diplomat and the assassins. His chest rose, his fists clenched. For a moment, he looked almost larger than life. He raised his weapon and fired. Back. Shots ripped through the smoke, hitting one assassin. Another fell, but there were too many. Their blasts struck Marcus. His armor sparked, cracked, and burned. He staggered, but did not fall. Thalrin froze, his hands shaking. He had never seen such defiance. "You will die." "Go!" Marcus shouted, coughing blood, his voice breaking but strong. "That's an order." The diplomat's body shook. His people believed humans acted only for themselves. Reckless, selfish, yet here was a human guard, choosing to die for someone not of his kind. Another blast struck Marcus in the side. He dropped to one knee. Pain filled his body like fire. Still he raised his weapon again. One last shot. One last fight. The assassins advanced, laughing coldly. They thought victory was theirs. But Marcus stood, broken but unyielding. He spread, his arms wide, blocking the entire corridor with his body. His eyes met Thalrin's one last time, and in that moment, the human smiled. The blast that hit him this time was final. His body slammed against the wall. Smoke swallowed him. His weapon clattered to the floor. Thalrin gasped. He could not move. His chest felt heavy, his throat tight. The guard was gone, but his act had carved something deep inside the alien's heart. Footsteps thundered. More station soldiers arrived. They clashed with the assassins driving them back. Blinding flashes lit the corridor, filling it with noise and violence. But Thalrin saw none of it. His golden eyes stayed locked on Marcus. The guard's body lay still, half hidden in smoke. His hand was open, fingers curled around something. Slowly, trembling, the diplomat stepped closer. Shots echoed around him, but he did not care. He knelt beside the fallen human. Marcus's lips moved faintly. A whisper. Weak. Broken. The alien bent close to hear. "Protect the peace," Then silence. Thalrin's throat tightened. His hands shook as he reached down and took the small object in Marcus's grasp. It was a worn metal tag, marked with the human's name, a soldier's token. For a long moment, Thalrin stared at it. This was not just a name, this was a life given freely, for him. Behind him, soldiers shouted, "Envoy, we must go, it's not safe here." But Thalrin did not answer. His golden eyes stayed fixed on the tag. His world, the world of rules, logic, and cold politics, suddenly felt empty. Why would a human give his life for him? For an alien? The Council had always told him, humans care only for themselves. But this man, this guard, had proven them wrong with blood. Smoke rose. Alarms screamed. The war outside continued, and Thalrin whispered, voice breaking for the first time in his long, disciplined life. "Why human? Why you?" He closed his hand around the tag. His people would never forgive what he was about to do. But something inside him had already changed, something no rule could stop. The guard was dead, but his sacrifice had only just begun to echo. The warship's medical wing was quiet, too quiet. Machines hummed softly, scanning broken bodies. Soldiers moved with heavy boots, carrying the wounded from the chaos of the station. The air smelled of medicine and smoke. Envoy. Thalrin sat alone on a bench in the far corner, his silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the pale lights. His long fingers clutched the small metal tag he had taken from the human guard. Marcus. Hail. The tag was simple, almost worthless in alien eyes, yet Thalrin's hand would not let it go. The edges pressed into his palm like fire, as if the object itself carried weight far greater than its size. He could still hear Marcus's final whisper, "Protect the peace." The diplomat's chest felt heavy. For his people, emotions were weakness. The Council demanded calm, order, and silence. No tears, no hesitation. Yet now his eyes burned, his throat felt tight, and his thoughts spun in endless circles. Why would a human, reckless, undisciplined, give his life for an alien he barely knew? The council chamber was vast, with walls that reached the sky and cold lights shining like stars. Hours later, Thalrin stood there before the High Council, his robes repaired, his face calm, or at least pretending to be calm. Dozens of alien leaders sat in silence, their eyes sharp, unblinking. The chamber smelled of iron and stone, heavy, with judgment. One voice rose. "Envoy Thalrin, you survived the attack. Good. But we must move forward. The treaty will continue. The humans are not our concern." Another added coldly, "The guard's death is unfortunate but irrelevant. We must not allow emotions to pollute our judgment." Thalrin's fingers twitched inside his robe, clutching the hidden tag. His heart pounded faster. Every word from the council felt like ice. Irrelevant. They called the human sacrifice irrelevant. He opened his mouth to speak, but stopped. He could not. To show emotion here was dangerous. The council punished those who broke the ancient rules. Silence was survival. And so, he bowed his head, his voice steady. "As you command." But inside, his thoughts screamed. That night, his quarters were silent. The station's lights dimmed, leaving only shadows against the walls. Thalrin sat at his desk, the tag lying in front of him. He touched it gently, tracing the human letters engraved there. Marcus Hale. His mind replayed the scene again and again. The guard standing tall, blocking the corridor with his body, fire in his eyes. The smile, the whisper, the fall into silence. His people's laws forbade attachment to outsiders, no bonds, no grief. Yet Thalrin's chest ached as if something inside him had broken. He tried to meditate, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Marcus standing in the smoke. Finally, his hands moved to the station's data console. His golden eyes flickered as he entered codes. Files appeared. Records. Human records. Each one stamped with warnings. Classified. Restricted. Forbidden. He hesitated. To open these files was treason. If caught, he would lose his rank, his honor, his entire life. But the memory of Marcus's voice pushed him forward. His long fingers tapped the keys. The files opened. Inside were stories, real, human history. Not council-approved versions, but raw accounts. He read of human soldiers who stood against impossible odds, refusing to abandon their allies. He read of explorers who gave their lives to protect strangers. He read of parents who starved so their children could eat, page after page, sacrifice after sacrifice. His heart pounded harder. The council had told them humans were selfish, dangerous, ruled only by impulse. But these records spoke of something else. Something powerful. A pattern of sacrifice, loyalty, love. He leaned back, shaken. Could it be? He whispered. Is this who they really are? The tag lay on the desk, silent but heavy. He reached out, closing his hand over it again. Suddenly, a sound. Click. The door to his quarters slid open. Thalrin froze. The files were still open on the screen. His chest tightened as he quickly tried to shut them down, but it was too late. Figure stepped into the room. Another diplomat, tall and sharp, with cold eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. His robes were darker, his presence heavy. The newcomer's voice was low, filled with suspicion. You are troubled, envoy. I see it in your eyes. Perhaps you are asking the wrong questions. Thalrin's body stiffened. His hand hid the tag quickly inside his sleeve. I am only reviewing the incident, Thalrin said calmly. The figure stepped closer, his shadow long across the floor. Be careful, envoy. Curiosity is a dangerous fire. Burn too close and you will not survive. The diplomat's golden eyes flickered, but his voice remained cold. I will remember. The figure turned, leaving as silently as he had come. The door slid shut again. Thalrin's heart raced. Sweat touched his skin. They were watching him. They suspected. His hand gripped the tag tighter than ever. The human had given his life for peace. And Thalrin now knew one thing. He could no longer obey the rules. Not after what he had seen. Not after what he had learned. For the first time in his long, disciplined life, Envoy Thalrin whispered words he should never say. I will break the council, if I must. The tag gleamed in his hand, a silent promise. And somewhere, in the quiet of the night, the burden of one human sacrifice grew heavier on the alien soul. The night cycle on the station wrapped everything in shadows. The wide corridors were quiet but not silent. Machines hummed, pipes hissed softly, and somewhere far away, metal groaned like a restless beast. Envoy. Thalrin walked slowly, his long robes brushing against the floor. His golden eyes scanned, the corners searching for hidden watchers. Every step echoed like a warning. His hand pressed against his sleeve, where the human guard's tag was hidden. He had made his choice. He would find the truth about Marcus Hale, even if the council called it treason, even if it cost him everything. At the heart of the station was the archive chamber, a sealed vault of records, guarded day and night. The council said the archive was forbidden to all but the highest masters. Yet Thalrin had studied law for decades. He knew paths, codes, doors that others forgot. He moved through a side corridor, passing a group of soldiers. They did not question him. His robes carried weight, the mark of a diplomat. But still he felt their eyes follow him, suspicious, heavy. At last he reached the tall metal door of the archive. It loomed like a mountain of steel, covered in alien script and blinking red locks. He placed his hand on the scanner. Denied. The screen flashed cold blue. Thalrin took a slow breath, his fingers trembling. Then he drew a small device from inside his robe, a tool he was never supposed to own. A human-made breaker, smuggled long ago from another world. It hummed faintly as he pressed it to the lock. Sparks danced. The machine stuttered. The door clicked open with a hiss. He slipped inside. The archive was dark, filled with towering shelves of glowing crystals, each one a memory, a file, a piece of history. The air was cool, the silence heavy. It felt like stepping into the bones of time itself. Thalrin's steps were slow, careful. He reached out, touching the nearest shelf. His eyes flickered as he read the names carved into the crystal spines. Diplomatic. Treaties, wars, secret trials. So much hidden from ordinary citizens. He searched quickly, his hands moving across shelves until he found the section marked Human Affairs. The crystals here glowed faint green. Their labels were sharp, unfriendly. Unstable species. Behavioral risks. Containment protocols. He pulled one crystal free and placed it on the console. It lit the room with cold light. The file opened in the air. Images floated before him. Reports, recordings, and secret surveillance of humans. He saw Marcus Hale's face appear. A record file, plain, cold, stripped of life. The guard's birth, his service years, debts, and disciplinary marks. Thalrin's golden eyes softened. The council's records painted Marcus as ordinary, almost unimportant. Yet this ordinary man had stood in fire and given his life without hesitation. Then something strange caught his eye. At the bottom of Marcus's file was a sealed note. The system marked it. Private correspondence, to be delivered upon death. Thalrin froze. His fingers trembled as he reached for it. The note unfolded into light. A human voice echoed softly in the archive. Marcus's voice. If I do not return, tell my family. Tell them I died doing something that mattered. Tell them peace is worth it. The words pierced Thalrin like a blade. His throat tightened, his breath unsteady. He read further. Attached was a letter Marcus had written to his younger brother. The words were simple, clumsy, but full of warmth. One day, maybe humans and aliens won't need guards with guns between them. Maybe people will just talk, share, live. That's my dream. If I don't live to see it, maybe someone else will. Thalrin's hand closed around the tag in his sleeve. His chest shook with something he had no word for in his language. This human had not died for orders. He had died for hope. A sound shattered the silence. Footsteps. Thalrin spun. At the far end of the archive, shadows moved. Someone else was here. A cold voice drifted across the chamber. I warned you, envoy. Curiosity is dangerous. The same dark-robed diplomat stepped into the light, his eyes sharp as knives. You break the law. You steal forbidden files. And for what? For a dead human? Thalrin stood tall, though his heart raced. That human sacrifice meant more than all your laws combined. The other diplomat sneered. You speak like them already. Do you not see? The guard's death was useful. It stirs fear, it strengthens the council's hand. Nothing more. Thalrin's jaw tightened. You call his life nothing, but he gave it for peace. He gave it freely. That is worth more than all your lies. The diplomat's eyes narrowed. Then you are lost. You stand against the council. Soldiers' boots echoed suddenly outside the chamber. The sound of weapons charging filled the air. They were coming for him. Thalrin looked once more at Marcus's file, at the words glowing faintly. Peace is worth it. He shut the file, slipped the crystal into his robe, and turned toward the door. If they would brand him traitor, so be it. He would not let the human's dream die in silence. As the soldiers stormed the archive, their rifles raised, Thalrin whispered under his breath, clutching the tag tight in his hand. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten, Marcus Hale. I swear it. The lights flickered. The air filled with tension, and the forbidden investigation had only just begun. The archive doors slammed shut behind him. Alarms echoed through the corridor, red lights flashing like angry eyes. Envoy Thalrin moved quickly, his robe flowing, like a shadow, the stolen crystal hidden inside. Every step shook with danger. If the soldiers caught him now, his career and his life would be over. But worse than the alarms were the words he could not forget. That guard's death was Useful. Those words came from a fellow diplomat, a voice that carried power, a voice that hinted at conspiracy. Thalrin ducked into a service tunnel, the air hot and thick with the smell of oil. The alarms faded behind him, but his heart still pounded. He clutched Marcus's tag in one hand, the crystal in the other. The file he had stolen was proof. Proof that Marcus had not only died for peace, but also proof that some within the alien council saw his sacrifice as a weapon for their own games. If the truth reached the public, everything could change. But if the conspirators found out what he carried, he would be silenced before morning. Later, in his private quarters, Thalrin placed the crystal on the table. The glow filled the room with cold green light. His golden eyes studied the human's last letter again. Marcus had dreamed of peace, simple, impossible peace. But behind the human's dream was something darker. Hidden in the council files were redacted notes, fragments of messages. Operation Silence. Human scapegoat. Stability through sacrifice. Thalrin's long fingers traced the words. His chest tightened. The assassination attempt on him was no random strike. It was planned, controlled. Perhaps not even by the assassins, but by someone within the council itself. The thought made his skin crawl. A faint sound broke the silence, a whisper of movement, outside his chamber. Thalrin quickly hid the crystal, slipping it back into his robe. The door slid open. The same dark-robed diplomat entered without permission, his cold eyes scanning the room. His voice was soft but sharp, like a blade hidden under silk. You should not have walked into the archive, envoy. You should not have touched what was not yours. Thalrin kept his face calm, though his hands trembled inside his sleeves. I was seeking clarity on the human's death, nothing more. The diplomat's lips curved into a cruel smile. Clarity? No. You seek danger. You think his sacrifice means something, but it means nothing. It is only a spark, useful to burn what we choose. Thalrin's voice hardened. You ordered the attack. The other diplomat tilted his head slightly as if amused. Perhaps, or perhaps I simply watched. Either way, you survived because the human was foolish enough to stand in the way. His death gave us a story, a tool, a chance to turn fear into obedience. Thalrin's chest burned with anger. He gave his life freely. He believed in peace. Peace? The other sneered. Peace is weakness. Control is survival. The humans will be blamed, and our people will unite behind us. That is the only truth. For the first time in years, Thalrin felt his voice shake. You are willing to sacrifice peace? To keep your power? The diplomat leaned closer, his eyes cold as stone. You will keep silent, envoy. If not for yourself, then for your family. You know what happens to those who defy the council. With that, he turned and left, his robes trailing like dark smoke. The door closed behind him. Thalrin stood frozen. His chest heaved with heavy breaths. For a long time, he did not move. The conspiracy was real. The assassination attempt had been staged. Marcus's sacrifice had been twisted into a tool for war, and worse, the council itself was involved. He sat at his desk, gripping the tag until his hand ached. Marcus had given his life for peace. But if the council had its way, his death would only bring war. Hours passed. Shadows stretched long across the walls. Thalrin could not sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw Marcus falling, the assassin's rifles blazing, the cruel smile of the dark diplomat. Finally, he rose. He pulled the crystal from his robe and placed it into the console. He copied its contents onto a smaller device, one he could hide, one he could smuggle. If he died, the truth would not die with him. But the question burned in his mind. Who could he trust? His own people would brand him traitor. The council would hunt him down. Only one group might believe him, the humans. The thought made him hesitate. His people viewed humans as unstable, dangerous. Yet after what Marcus had done, After the letter, he had read, perhaps humans were the only ones who understood sacrifice. A soft knock at his door broke his thoughts. Thalrin stiffened. Slowly, he opened the panel. Outside stood a young human soldier. His eyes were tired, his face marked with grief. "You are Envoy Thalrin?" he asked quietly. "Yes." The soldier swallowed hard. "My name is Aaron Hale. Market was my brother." Thalrin's golden eyes widened. His heart raced. He had not expected this. Aaron's voice was low but steady. "I need to know the truth. Why did my brother die?" Thalrin looked at the soldier, then at the tag in his hand. He had no answer yet. But he knew one thing. The truth was no longer his burden alone. The conspiracy was deeper than he imagined. The enemy was not outside the council chambers. The enemy was inside, hidden, waiting. And now, with Marcus's brother standing before him, Thalrin realized something else. He was no longer fighting only for his own conscience. He was fighting for a human dream, a dream that could tear his people's lives apart. The council chamber glowed with pale blue light. Tall pillars of crystal stretched toward the ceiling, their surfaces shimmering like frozen stars. Every sound seemed to vanish inside the vast hall, leaving only silence, the kind of silence that pressed against the skin like iron chains. Envoy Thalrin stood at the center, his robes flowing, his hands hidden inside his sleeves. Around him, the alien council sat in high thrones, their faces sharp and unyielding. Their golden eyes studied him without warmth, without mercy. In his sleeve, he clutched Marcus Hale's tag. In his chest, his heart beat like thunder. The high speaker's voice filled the chamber, cold and final. "Envoy Thalrin, you are accused of violating sacred law. You entered the archives without sanction. You accessed forbidden files. You carried records beyond your rank. Do you deny these charges?" The words echoed through the chamber. Thalrin bowed his head slightly. "I do not deny them." A murmur rippled through the council, soft but sharp, like knives scraping stone. The high speaker's voice grew harder. "Then you admit treason. By law, your sentence is exile, your honor stripped, your legacy erased. But before judgment, you may speak. Do you wish to speak, Envoy?" The chamber grew colder. All eyes were on him. Thalrin raised his head. His golden eyes blazed, not with calm but with fire. "I will speak," he said, his voice steady. He stepped forward, the silence pressing down on him. "A human guard died in fire to protect me. He had no reason to. He owed me nothing. Yet, he gave his life, freely. His last words were for peace." The council shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others narrowed their eyes. Thalrin continued. "Our laws demand silence. Our laws demand we erase his name, forget his sacrifice. But I cannot. I will not." The high speaker's voice cut in like ice. "You speak of weakness. This human's death means nothing. It changes nothing." Thalrin's voice grew louder. "It changes everything. He showed courage greater than any law. He gave hope greater than any treaty. He proved that peace is not weakness, it is strength." The chamber trembled with his words. For the first time, emotion had broken the perfect order of the council. One elder slammed his hand against the arm of his throne. "Silence. You disgrace this chamber with human lies." Thalrin took a deep breath. His hand slipped from his sleeve, holding the stolen crystal. Its green glow filled the chamber like a beacon. "I have proof," he said. Gasps rippled through the hall. The high speaker's voice shook with sudden fury. "What have you done, Envoy?" Thalrin activated the crystal. In the air above him, glowing words and recordings appeared. Secret files from the archive, notes of conspiracy, messages of Operation Silence, plans to blame humans for the assassination attempt. Proof of manipulation, the chamber filled with the council's own betrayal. "This is the truth," Thalrin said firmly. "The attack on me was no act of chaos. It was designed, planned, controlled. Humans are not our enemy. The enemy is within these walls. The chamber erupted. Elders shouted. Some cried for his execution. Others demanded the files be erased at once. Guards stormed forward, their weapons raised. Thalrin stood tall, unflinching. His golden eyes burned brighter than ever. "I will not be silent," he said. "Not for you. Not for your lies. Marcus Hale's sacrifice will not be erased." Me. Guards closed in. Their armor clanked against the floor, their rifles humming with energy. The high speaker shouted, his voice sharp with rage. "Seize him! Erase the traitor from memory!" But Thalrin did not move. His voice rose above the chaos, echoing across the chamber. "You can strip my title. You can exile me. You can end my life. But you cannot destroy the truth, and you cannot destroy his dream." The council's fury grew louder. The guards surrounded him, and in that moment Thalrin did something no envoy had ever done in the history of his people. He raised Marcus Hale's tag high above his head, letting its metal catch the chamber's light. "This human gave his life for peace," Thalrin cried, "and I will give mine for the same." The chamber froze. Even the guards hesitated. The sight of a diplomat, an envoy, holding the tag of a human soldier was unthinkable, unforgivable. But Thalrin's voice rang like steel. "Break me if you must, but his name will live. His sacrifice will live. His truth will live." The high speaker rose from his throne, his voice thundering. "Then you are no longer one of us. You are banished, stripped of your name, stripped of your honor. You will walk as nothing." Thalrin's chest heaved, his legs shook, but his eyes did not fall. He whispered to himself, almost too softly to hear, "Better nothing with truth than everything with lies." The guards seized him. They tore the crystal from his hand, shattered it before the council. But Thalrin smiled faintly. He had already copied the data onto a smaller device, hidden deep within his robes. As they dragged him out of the chamber, he still held Marcus's tag tight in his other hand. The council's judgment was final. He was no longer an envoy, no longer a diplomat. He was nothing. But as the heavy door slammed shut behind him, Thalrin whispered into the silence, "Peace is worth it." And for the first time in his long life, the weight of breaking rules felt lighter than chains. The prison cell was small and cold. Its walls were made of smooth black stone that absorbed sound, leaving only silence. No window, no clock, only a dim light that flickered like a dying star. Envoy Thalrin, no, not envoy anymore, just Thalrin, sat alone on the hard bench. His robes were torn, his wrists bound by glowing restraints that stung against his skin. The council had stripped his title, his honor, his name. He was nothing now. But in his hand, hidden from the guards, he still held Marcus Hale's tag. The council had tried to take it. They had failed. He whispered to it softly, words he would never say to anyone else. "Your dream is heavy, human, but I will carry it." Footsteps echoed outside the cell. Heavy boots, slow and careful. Thalrin lifted his head. Guards? Executioners? The door clicked. A shadow slipped inside. Not a guard. A human. The figure moved quickly, pressing a device to the wall. The restraints around Thalrin's wrists flickered and broke. The stranger's voice was low. "We don't have much time. Get up." Thalrin blinked in shock. "Who are you?" The man stepped into the light. His face was tired, but his eyes burned with fire. "My name is Aaron Hale," he said. "Marcus was my brother." For a long heartbeat, the cell was silent. Thalrin's golden eyes widened. Aaron's jaw tightened. "I know you've seen the truth. Marcus wasn't just killed. He was used. The council wants war, and they'll use his death to make it happen." Thalrin rose slowly. His chest felt heavy, but his voice was steady. "You speak like him. Like your brother." Aaron's eyes softened. "He always talked about peace. Said one day humans and aliens could trust each other. Said maybe I would live to see it if he didn't." The words cut deep. Thalrin bowed his head. He gave his life for me. I will not let them twist it. Aaron tossed him a cloak. Then help us, we're not alone. There are others who believe, but we need proof. We need you. Thalrin hid Marcus's tag inside the cloak. I have proof. I copied the files before they destroyed the crystal. Aaron's eyes lit with hope. Then let's move. Tonight the uprising begins. The two slipped through dark service corridors, shadows against shadows. The station above was restless. Guards patrolled heavily, alarms whispered through the walls, whispers of traitors and silence. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber deep below the council levels. A dozen humans waited there, their faces grim, their weapons ready. Some wore soldier uniforms. Others were ordinary workers, engineers, medics, and among them stood two aliens, their eyes sharp, but filled with quiet defiance. Aaron introduced them quickly. This is the Circle. People who know the truth. People ready to fight. Thalrin's gaze swept across the group. He had never seen such a gathering, humans and aliens together, standing side by side. His heart trembled. Perhaps Marcus's dream was already alive here, in secret. Aaron gestured toward him. This is the one Marcus died for. The council calls him a traitor. I call him ally. Thalrin stepped forward. He pulled the small device from his cloak. Placing it on the table, it glowed faintly, casting green light across the chamber. This, he said, is the truth. Proof that the council staged the attack. Proof that they seek to turn our people against each other. They killed Marcus with lies. They will kill peace itself, unless we stop them. The group leaned forward, eyes locked on the glowing data. One human soldier whispered. If this goes public, the council won't be able to hide anymore, an alien rebel added. But they'll try. They'll silence us before the people see it. Aaron looked at Thalrin. So we don't give them the chance. We broadcast it ourselves. Every channel, every screen. The truth goes everywhere. Thalrin's golden eyes burned with determination. Then we must be ready. The council will come for us the moment we act. Aaron's voice hardened. Let them come. We've lived too long in their shadow. Tonight, we fight back. The chamber filled with tense energy. Humans checked their weapons. Aliens whispered quiet prayers. The stolen files hummed brighter, waiting to be unleashed. Thalrin clutched Marcus's tag once more. Feeling its weight, he closed his eyes and whispered, Human, I hope I honor you. Then he turned to the Circle. His voice was steady, stronger than it had ever been. Marcus Hale gave his life for peace. Tonight, we give our lives for the same. Not for power, not for lies, for truth. The group raised their fists, their voices low but fierce. For truth. As the lights flickered across the station, alarms began to scream again. The council had noticed something. Guards were moving, ships preparing, soldiers mobilizing. But in the hidden chamber, hope flickered brighter than fear. The uprising had begun. Thalrin stood at the front, Aaron Hale at his side. Two men from different worlds, bound by one sacrifice, one dream. The fight would be hard. The cost would be high. But the truth was stronger than silence. And tonight the council would learn that not all chains could hold forever. The station trembled like a wounded beast. Sirens howled through the corridors, red lights flashing across the walls. Soldiers shouted orders, boots pounded, weapons crackled with energy. The council's grip was tightening, desperate to crush the rebellion before it could spread. But in the lower decks, where shadows hid the forgotten, the circle of humans and alien defectors prepared for their last stand. At the center of them stood Thalrin. His robes were torn, his name stripped away, but his golden eyes burned brighter than ever. In one hand, he held the stolen device containing the council's secrets. In the other, he held Marcus Hale's tag, the small piece of metal that had become his compass. Beside him stood Aaron Hale, his brother's fire burning in his eyes. He loaded his weapon, jaw set. This is it. Once we broadcast, there's no turning back. Thalrin nodded. His voice was calm, but his heart pounded, like a storm. The council will call us liars, they will call us traitors, but if even one mind opens, if even one soul questions, then Marcus's sacrifice will live. The rebels moved through service tunnels, heading toward the central tower. That was where the council kept the core beacon, a massive transmitter that reached every ship, every colony, every world within range. If the files could be broadcast from there, the truth would be unstoppable, but the path was not theirs alone. As they neared the tower, the air grew hot with energy fire. Soldiers poured into the corridors, black-armored and merciless. The battle began in fire and smoke. Humans shouted, aliens cried out, weapons clashed. Sparks lit the darkness as rebels fell, but still they pressed forward. Thalrin fought with nothing but his staff, his robes flowing like shadows. He moved with precision, striking, blocking, forcing a path. Every blow echoed with his vow, protect the peace. Aaron fought at his side, his rifle blazing. Go, I'll cover you, he shouted. No, Thalrin replied firmly. We go together. At last, battered and breathless, they reached the heart of the tower. The core beacon rose before them, a vast column of light stretching upward, pulsing with power. It was beautiful, like the heart of a star, alive and waiting. Thalrin placed the device against the console. It hummed, glowing green as the files began to upload. Marcus's letter, the council's conspiracies, the truth itself. The beacon's light shifted, ready to spread it across the galaxy. But then, the chamber doors slammed open. The dark-robed diplomat entered, flanked by guards. His eyes burned with fury, his voice sharp as a blade. You think you can defy us, traitor? You think a dead human's dream will shatter centuries of order? Thalrin stood tall, the tag still in his hand. His voice was steady. Not just a dream, a truth. Stronger than your lies. The diplomat raised his hand. Kill them all. Blasts filled the chamber. Guards stormed forward. The rebels fought. Back, but they were outnumbered, outgunned. One by one they fell. Aaron fired until his rifle burned hot. He shouted above the chaos, "The upload! Protect it!" Thalrin looked at the console. The files were still transmitting, but slowly. Too slowly. The guards were closing in. If the beacon was destroyed, everything would be lost. He knew what he had to do. Thalrin grabbed the device from the console and pressed it against his chest. His golden eyes locked on the core beacon. The diplomat sneered. You cannot win, envoy. Even if you die, your rebellion dies with you. Thalrin's voice rose, strong enough to cut through the fire. No, it will live. Because humans taught me something you never understood. He looked once at Marcus's tag, then at Aaron, then at the beacon. Peace is worth sacrifice. And, with that, Thalrin hurled himself into the core beacon. Light consumed him. The device shattered against the beacon's heart, releasing the files, the secrets, the human's last words. The beacon flared brighter than a star, flooding every channel, every world, every mind within its reach. The council's lies burned away in the blaze of truth. Across the galaxy, people saw Marcus Hale's letter. They heard his voice. They learned. The council had betrayed them. And they saw Thalrin, an alien diplomat who broke every rule, who gave everything. So the truth could not be silenced. The chamber was silent now. The guards had stopped, their faces pale. The dark-robed diplomat stared at the beacon, horror in his eyes. His power was gone. The truth had escaped. Aaron dropped to his knees, tears burning his eyes. He picked up the small metal tag that had fallen from Thalrin's hand. He held it tightly, whispering, "He did it, Marcus. He kept your dream alive." In the days that followed, the council fractured. Some fled, some were overthrown. Across alien worlds, people spoke the human's name with respect, Marcus Hale. And always beside it, they spoke another, Thalrin, the alien who had broken every rule, the traitor who became truth's voice. the exile who gave his life, so peace could live. And somewhere in the quiet of memory, two voices seemed to whisper together, one human, one alien, peace is worth it.